They were realizing that the British had already played the Arabs around, and if they were going to try that with the Israelis as well, then they were going to teach them a lesson. So, in order to get rid of them, they enacted the killing of British officials in the King David Hotel.
Do you know why they did that?
Yes, I know perfectly why they did that. Because they wanted Britain out so they could perpetuate their...
No, because the British were stopping Jews going into Palestine.
I think that's an unfair statement because
the British were stopping, according to the mandate they had, there was a certain number could go into Palestine. When that was exceeded, the British were stopping them, and that was the cause of the argument between the Jewish side and the British side.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you...
know that, don't you?
No, what I'm saying, my understanding, Winston Churchill...
difference between the Jewish people wanting to set up their homeland, which they've been praying for 3,000 years.
But that's based on the assumption that it's their land.
And attacking the administration of...
But that's based upon the assumption, biblical assumption, that the land of Israel belongs to the state or children, or the land of Palestine rather, belongs to the children of Israel. But we've just accepted that there were already the where does God say that?
Well, it's the promised land.
For who? Because when they were freed.
The Old Testament is your book. It's all in the Old Testament.
So when they were freed from bondage, they were given land from the Nile to the Euphrates. It wasn't that the land of Palestine was designated to them as their land. They took it by force. Everybody knows that. You read the Old Testament. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Those who resisted.
Yeah, so they took that by force. And the Canaanites and the Philistines.
Now, coming back to the King David Hotel, so there you have somebody who's trying to establish a country, but they are annoyed because the people running the country are not allowing their people back in, which is a sort of problem. And but these were not hippies dancing. This was not an idea to massacre all the English because they weren't Muslim. It's just entirely different.
I think the idea was perpetuated at the time because
you can realise they're entirely different, won't you back down on that either?
Sorry, what's the exact point?
An attack on the King David Hotel is in no way similar to the attempted genocide with thousands on Jews.
Well, the reason I'm looking at the historical context. Can I make my point at least?
You keep saying about historical context.
So the historical context was that at that time, because they wanted the British out so they could continue with their brutality of what they were enacting.
They were not they had Arabs
so killing the British officials.
About 10% of ours with a vote don't have to wear ridiculous costumes. Women can drive.
Ridiculous costumes. It is a ridiculous costume.
No. The women can drive. The women can be educated. They are. People can hold official positions.
Okay, let me say something to you.
This is not happening in any other country.
Okay, so let's look what's happening here.
Certainly Jews aren't allowed those positions.
Okay, women over here, are women dominating society over here? In matrimonial affairs, women are dominating. Men are now subjugated. Why do we have organisations such as Families Need Fathers, Fathers for Justice? When we have these issues where women now are in positions of dominance, if a divorce happens, what happens commonly? She goes away with everything. The estate, the children, the men are left to beg. That is
This is the flux, nothing to do with the current argument.
No, but I'm just because you made the point about women. The Gazans do not want to kill. Gazans want their land back.
You said that the Jews wanted to get rid of the Arabs in Israel.
1940,
they did not. They never have. They've allowed them there. They've allowed them to vote. They've allowed them to run. They allowed them to run levers until they started to cause problems, and it had to be governed again.
But the country already at that belonged
because the Arabs were education in the Arab world.
But the Arabs were promised the land by the British at the Balfour Declaration. There was no understanding it would be a creation of a state of Israel. So the British were two-timing everybody. Okay? Yeah, we all know that. But the point being, at the same junction,
not relevant.
It is because the Sykes-Picot.
I don't know. Your mind is not clear.
Give me an opportunity to explain. The Sykes. Are you aware of?
Keep explaining by taking the argument somewhere else.
I'm looking at the historical context.
It's a decisive argument. There are people. There's a cult within Gaza that wants to kill every Jew on the planet.
I don't believe that.
Oh well, I do believe.
I don't.
So there we have an insurmountable thing. Yes. I am saying
because the evidence for me.
Want us to believe it.
Now, the evidence for me is that prior to First World War, 1917, there was no conflict between the Arabs and the Jews. That's evidence for me.
Lebanon was a wonderful country with many, many different religions and a great culture until they let the Palestinians in. Then they wrecked the entire country.
Well, I mean, that's just open to conjecture, isn't it? I mean, what's the evidence that they wrecked the country?
Do read some history, educate yourself. Please, I know I'm being rude there, but please educate yourself in some proper history away from all the propaganda.
Can you give me some sources, some citation, some scholarly academic research into this?
Well, it shouldn't be difficult. You're an intelligent man. You can find it.
I'm just learning.
You can recognise propaganda when you see it.
Well, it depends how you see it, that propaganda. Anyway, I mean, I can tell you as Muslims, we want peace with everyone. However, what our summary task is that there should be justice and fairness to everyone,
yes.
not just for select people.
British justice
right?
to everyone, because there is no Islamic justice.
I think that's a bit unfair to say that. Look, do you accept during
impose a system of law which is alien to our culture?
So what is our culture? Can you define
our culture? Well,
define our culture, please? I'd like to hear that.
You know how this is developed in common law.
Okay, what is the culture? Give me an example. What is our culture which is alien to the Islamic narrative?
Well, we have a system of democracy which we rather like here.
Okay, so what does that entail in terms of day-to-day living, which is counter to the Islamic narrative?
Because the Islamic people want a caliphate.
So what would that involve?
Caliphate doesn't involve elections, does it?
Of course it doesn't.
It doesn't involve women voting, does it?
What it does involve is the regimented...
I have something, Muhammad, bless him, he wanted women to have power.
Yes? No. What Muhammad...
But he had to recant on that and rewrite bits of the Quran because the people around him wouldn't accept it.
No, because he actually fought against them, because they were the same pagans who were trying to, when the daughters were being born, they were being buried alive.
Oh, I know.
So he took a stance against that. And he sacrificed everything for that.
Yeah,
everything.
He's very positive things about Muhammad,
yeah.
and there are also, unfortunately, some very negative.
Those negative
about
things.
The culture which he fought.
No. Those negative things were supposedly derived once he gained some sort of power when he migrated to Medina. But what that was, essentially speaking, it's a common polemic against his post-Meccan period where he was persecuted and subjugated. He then went forward to Medina, where he was able to come within a community. People understood his fairness and his equitable manner. They chose him as a leader, and then the Muslims resettled simply because they were being subjugated. So when they resettled, he made affiliations, he made friendships with many people, but these pagan Arabs, 250 miles south in Mecca, they were still after his guts. So what did they used to do? They used to still try to invoke him in war, stop his caravans, to murder his followers. So in the end, even as it's seen in the Old Testament, for example, when Jeremiah used to fight battles, Moses used to fight battles, the Islamic order was given to fight those who fight you. Fight those, this is a common misnomer given in Surah 9 of the Quran, which states...
So when I say I don't like the cultish body in Gaza who wants to kill all the Jews on the planet, does this mean I'm opposing Islam?
Yes, it would be opposing because
Islam... you want to kill me.
Say that again.
Can you run that by you again?
Yes, please, because that
Can we agree that?
It's
in their charter.
Okay, where does it say in their charter?
Said once we start again. It's in their speech.
Okay, can you show it to me? Where I haven't. I've read their charter. I've read their charter. I don't see anywhere which are
changed the charter. But
so they've changed it now.
You said they have changed the charter. But
no, you said to me initially.
The major speakers in charge of Hamas have said they intend to eliminate all the Jews on the planet, and they'll probably start on the Christians after that because they believe that's what.
If that is true, if what you are saying is true, then I'll be totally opposed.
You just have to go and find it.
But
You've just find it on the Arab supporters.
Okay, but if you can bring. Okay, so if I can see the Hamas charter which states that we are after the annihilation of the Jewish people worldwide, I will go against Hamas.
Oh, well, that's fine. We can agree. Thank you.
So, our good friend here, I think, was a vociferous supporter of Israel, as you can imagine. So, this made several points to him. Nowhere did it say in the Hamas, as far as I'm aware, which calls for the killing of every single Jew on the face of the earth. That's nonsense. We spoke a little about the historical context, and we look at the state of the Palestinian people going back now for 3 generations. They've been suffering and being tortured. Everybody accepts it. It's no wonder the world supports them. People can see what is happening. People know the historical context in which they've suffered for such a long period of time. People are not in the age of learning and in the age of technology, in the age of information. People are aware worldwide what is going on. So for him to come up and state that this is an action perpetuated by Hamas or by Gazans, it's just a complete fallacy. And this propaganda taking place, it's not propaganda, it's visual images we're seeing of the destruction of the inhabitants. 40,000 people have been killed, displaced, and this has been going on for a very, very long time in terms of the mass, if you want, extermination of the Palestinian people. So this is simple sour grapes on his part. I think the world is realizing that this Zionist movement is just seeking to implode, and whatever they want, that is what will happen. So may Allah help our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May we have the strength to help them in whichever way and every possibility that we can, because this is going to be a test for us as well. You see, what did we do when watching these incidents take place? We're cozy in our own homes, we're eating, we're drinking, we're going to restaurants, we're having nice food. Are we really even Muslims? That is what I question myself. What are we doing for the sake of Allah? We need to wake up, because this could come to us one day. The crescendo against Islam is building up here in the UK, just as it did in Yugoslavia 30 years ago, in Kosovo. That's in roughly about the same time period. So this is up for us to reflect. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.